Burt, welcome to the Elev8 Event Series Podcast. Thank you for coming on today, man. I'm excited to learn more about your business. You
Um,
already look like the most interesting man alive, and I can't wait to learn a little bit more about it, what exactly you do.
yeah, if I only had a beer right now, I could probably pull that off.
You could 100%. And the business is not what you look like. Talk to us. What is your business? What do you do? Just tell the people what exactly is New Life Co. and what you guys do different in this industry.
Now, and Harrison, let me start out with thanks for even inviting me to be on here. It's a real privilege because you have quite a following going on. So congratulations to you, man.
Thanks for coming.
But yeah, most people when I tell them what they do is like, really? Because you don't look like what you do. It's
At all.
So, New Life CFO Services, we are an outsourced fractional CFO solution to mid-market companies. And we also provide outsourced accounting. So, I'm a CPA from background, MBA. Most of my life has been in financial management until 2000. In 2000, I was the CFO of a $65 million construction company, got promoted to president, and then ultimately bought the North Texas operations out from the parent, which was 7 out of the 65, grew that to a run rate of 30 million, and then the Great Recession hit, man. That was fun.
That love that.
Yeah, yeah. So my revenues went from about a run rate of 30 million down to 4 million in 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah, because construction just came to a screeching halt. And the short of the story is I've never lost so much money so fast in all my life. Because my monthly revenues went down to 325,000, and my break-even point was well over 800,000.
My God.
Yeah, really. That's where my gray hair comes from. So if you're wondering, I'm only 35. But yeah, it's lucky that I had a lot of experience in doing turnarounds and fantastic staff. Got the company totally rebuilt. Truly lost millions upon millions, but in 2009 was my most profitable year. But Harrison, it was that experience that like, holy smokes, man, if I can step in this financial bear trap and barely get out, what about all these other entrepreneurs that are fantastic at sales? They're fantastic at their operations or product, but they don't know how to manage the economic opportunity or the economic risks, financial risks of their business. So I sold my old business to a strategic after I'd rebuilt it. I didn't even know what a fractional CFO was, but I became very dedicated to I needed to go out and serve the mid-market entrepreneur to make sure that their well-being was taken care of and their wild aspirations came true.
Yeah, and I think that, as sales, marketing companies, we always think about like the good things that are going to happen, but nobody is well prepared. I'm actually reading this book called The Psychology of Money. Great book, by the way. And it talks about how to really become wealthy and to really be successful, you have to operate with some degree of pessimism and paranoia. And so I think having, we don't think about, oh, wow, what if the economy tanks? What's my business going to happen? So I think having someone, I mean, I think that's what you guys do essentially is just cover people's butt. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep it PG-13. Cover people's behind. Is that kind of what a virtual CFO does?
Yeah, and it's I don't like living in a life of scarcity, right? So that's not my DNA, but it is healthy to recognize, hey, here's a problem in front of us because the problem really is when you don't recognize that there's a problem. If you recognize there's a problem and then you can start to assess how big is the problem, where this might hit me, and then you can navigate around that problem and avoid it or mitigate it and keep the gas to the pedal, right? So that's what you really want to do because companies really get sideways when they don't even admit that there's a potential of a problem and then they lack a plan of action to actually work around it to keep moving forward.
So do you go in and audit companies for maybe some blind spots, some unforeseeable problems, or they usually come to you with the problem?
Buddy, I got to avoid the A word. I don't want to be associated with an auditor.
God, oh, I was like, which A word are we talking about there?
No, no, I thought that'd get your attention, but back in the day when I was an auditor, I never want to do that again because the first thing my clients would ask is, when are you leaving?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, to go off subject here, I studied accounting in college. That was my first major, and I did one A word audit with my mom at a firm. My God, I switched majors
No, no,
immediately.
no.
Yeah.
More germane to your question, though, what we typically do is we're going to start out with a deep dive financial assessment about what is the performance of the company, what do your revenues really look like, What's the risk profile of your revenues? What's growing with velocity and what's slowing down? And then really kind of map out what are the headwinds for moving the company forward and what are the opportunities that are not really being maximized. Then from that, we really map out usually a 3 to 9 month process about these are the things that we want to change and implement to make your company perform wildly different. So an easy way of thinking about that is, your financial statements. They're really nothing more than a historical reflection of your people, behaviors, decisions, processes, and systems. Irrespective of your wild aspirational goals and strategies, if you don't understand what your numbers are telling you about those human aspects, then you're not going to get there. Because implicitly, you have to change the humans if you want to change your business. And so we start looking at all that so we can communicate how we need to help you change the directions and behaviors of your humans, help them to understand the financial sensitivities of that so we can all get there together.
So a couple questions, right? You said fractional virtual CFO. Is that, I mean, that's essentially what you guys are. So how small can I be to have your services? And then how big, what is your target? Like how big are companies that you're helping? How small are they? I'm curious about that.
So great question. We actually have 2 tiers of service, really for those companies that are either private equity backed or $7 million up to $70 million. That's really more of our traditional fractional CFO role. We're going to be at those companies a half day a week to a full day a week, every week, right? Helping to drive the company forward because, we're not a consultant. We're going to make stuff happen, right? So you're getting a sliver or a fraction of a CFO. Now, for those companies smaller, we're actually rolling out an AI-induced virtual CFO. So we plug that into your system, and it drives proactive alerts to you about what's on track or not on track, and suggestions of what to do. And behind that is a human that's on call, so you can have a really good fleshed out conversation about not only what needs to change, but how to make that change happen. And that's how we really visualize best serving the companies from 7 million down to 1 million. They still need a good CFO, but paying for, 1 day a week is a little bit of a heavy burden for those smaller companies.
Got it. Okay. So my favorite word, AI, my favorite new assistant, AI, not to be confused with Allen Iverson because he never takes the day off and always goes to practice.
Right.
So you guys are utilizing
Shooting
AI.
from the corner all the time.
So the AI is used for the companies under 7 million, and then they have like kind of a consultative the AI tracks it, and then they have like the actual human that they can call. And then anything over 7 million, you actually have the 1 day a week dedicated virtual CFO.
That's pretty much it. Right. So the AI is doing a lot of the heavy lifting about monitoring the performance because the mindset there is the data or the issue should chase the decision maker. The decision maker should not have to go digging all that stuff. So you're going to get proactive alerts. This is working, it's not working. You could be coming off the 18th green and get an alert on your phone going, hey, look, our liquidity just went to an all-time high. You can now take money out of the company, right? You don't have to go wait for somebody to tell you that. It's going to push that information to you so you can make a decision in the 19th hole while you're having a cocktail.
And maybe make an extra large side bet if that's the case.
You're like a mind reader.
No, I'm just kidding. We don't do gambling channel. No. Okay. So, what's your biggest business accomplishment thus far? I mean, obviously you've kind of gone through the gutter and gone from, losing, a significant amount to creating a business out of it. What would you say is your, since you've created that business, what's your biggest business accomplishment?
2 things I'll say from internal perspective and then from an external perspective. Internal, it started out with me and my kitchen table, right? I just going around seeing if people needed help. Where we are right now is we just hired our 17th professional. So now we have a group of CFOs that can leverage each other's experience. So when our clients engage with us, you may have me sitting at the table, but I have 16 other peers that are behind me that I can go and tap into their experience, which is different and in aspects deeper than mine. So that I could not be happier with because now we can address a very large myriad of issues and opportunities, whether it's buying or selling your company or just improving performance, whatever, that I couldn't do on my own. On an external deal, one of the things that I just got off the phone with this CEO, he still remains a really good friend of mine. When we first engaged, this company was doing 28 million and 3% EBITDA. Their wild ass goal was to do 50 million and 5% EBITDA. And I'm like, man, you're focused on the wrong number. And they go, which one's wrong? I said, that 5%, that ain't good enough. And we really backtracked into how to change the company. And ultimately, what we found out is their execution on their projects was really jacked up. And so we streamlined that, got their project managers to become profit managers instead of project managers. And right now, that company is doing 120 million and 14% EBITDA. And now they're in acquisition mode, and they may end up.
Again, one more time.
So now they're doing 120 million at 14% EBITDA.
So I don't even know that 5 times, almost five.
Oh yeah.
5x.
Oh yeah.
Before.
And because they're generating so much capital, because remember, you can only get capital three ways. You either earn it, you borrow it, or somebody invest it.
Yeah.
Right? But now they're making so much money, they're now going into an acquisition mode. How do I go up and buy other poor performers, revamp them into the great processes they have, and make a boatload of money? They think that ultimately within 3 years, they're going to be a $250 million company.
Wow.
Very fun stuff.
Wow, that is fun stuff. Exceeding expectations is definitely can only be good for business.
Geez, man, I got goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah. So what? Like you're in DFW, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So DFW. What about DFW? How did you get here? What about DFW do you love and doing business in DFW in particular?
Well, man, I was born and raised here, so
where most of us are transplants, but you're one of the few.
Hell, man, I should have my shoes bronzed. So for those folks that are familiar with DFW, when I was a kid, 635 was being built. And I know that sounds like just a whole bunch of old man talk, but this is my backyard.
I thought you were 35.
35 with a lot of practice. But, so this is my backyard. I grew up here. I still have all my high school, grade school friends are here, and most of them have become wildly successful. So my ability to connect within this marketplace is pretty rich. And then from that, the ripple effect of reputation gets to be very large. So I love DFW. And I tell a lot of clients, it's like, man, if you're struggling in this town or this state, it's you, right? We need to fix you.
Yeah.
Because opportunities around here are all over the place. 100%. So as long as you're willing to take off your blinders and admit that you might be the one stubbing your toe, then we can fix that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's been the common thread of this podcast thus far is DFW, no matter what industry. I just got off the Impact. I just got off a call with our podcast with staffing industry, one of the biggest number 5 market in staffing in the country, and roofing, number one hail market in the country, and just a great place to be doing business and just growing with different entrepreneurs. Now. I will ask, how are you, you said word of mouth, like how else are you generating business? How are you getting in contact with leads? How do you currently generate business in your industry?
Yeah, another really good question. We have an overriding premise on our marketing and business development. Number one, our internal strategy is if we develop a really great business development machine, we will attract the best CFOs. Because the number one issue that somebody considering being a fractional CFO is I don't want to do sales and marketing. I avoided that in college for a reason. So if we have a great machine, then we're solving their biggest issue and we're likely to attract the best CFOs. But to do that, the other premise that we take is if I serve well, I will be served. So what we look for is opportunities to serve influential people that influence CEOs. So for example, some of y'all have heard about like Vistage and other peer group CEO groups. We work very hard to serve that chair of that group so that they become more important to their CEO members. Like we will give them consultations to help them prepare for a one-on-one call about these are financial questions you need to be asking this person. We don't want to be in front of them per se, but the more we help those people, the more likely it is that they return the favor and introduce us when their clients are broken. For bankers, we do a very similar thing, right? Because they touch tons. So your average banker, they will they'll look at 10 deals, right? They're going to get 2 of them. They're going to lose the 3rd one to somebody else. But it's deal 4, 5, and 6 that aren't deal ready yet. And what we tell them is like, you introduce us to deal 4, 5, and 6. They're not deal ready. We're going to go fix them. and we're going to hand them back to you. So in essence, we help to protect their pipeline of deals, which makes them more loyal partners. Again, if we serve well, we will be served. And then like this, we do a boatload of content. I mentioned earlier on, we're releasing a deal called Succeeding in the Seasons of Uncertainty, which God knows we got a lot of that going on right now. Yeah.
So the content, I mean, is the content mostly on LinkedIn? Is it on Instagram? Is it on Facebook? Where are you releasing the content to?
It's primarily on LinkedIn. We are
LinkedIn.
looking at some other channels, but right now we have, I have, the company has 3,500 followers. I have 5 or 6,000. So there's already audience, and then we push it out through some emails like everybody else does.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. I think that's a big, we're big on Instagram with our events, and that's, with getting more into these corporate, just trying to connect bigger businesses. I think LinkedIn is a great opportunity for people to start to grow for sure.
And for the most part, we or I certainly don't talk like your average accountant, right? So somebody's ear is much more willing to listen to me because I talk like, hey man, I'm just a business owner like you. I'm just trying to solve these things. I just happen to have a really good financial filter, but I see the world through your eyes.
Yeah, and I think that's having that experience as a business owner is definitely going to be is definitely something I think a lot of businesses, I'm sure, connect with you on for sure.
And quite frankly, that's our external strategy. All of our CFOs that we hire, we want them to be a great CFO, of course, but we also want them to have had some level of operating experience in their background. They've been over a division, they've been a general manager, COO. Two of us have actually owned our own companies in the past because we think that having sat on the other side of that desk makes us a hell of a lot better of a financial empathetic partner because we've managed those other functions as well as just measured them.
Yeah, yeah. And you said 17 now? You have 17?
Yep. We think we're going to be right at 20 by the end of the year, which in this marketplace makes us the second largest in the marketplace.
Low key flex, just low key. Okay, so we talked a lot about, obviously you guys are growing. Where do you want to grow most? Like what part of your business are you looking to grow most in?
Our CFO is where we add the most value, right? The accounting, I love my accountants. They're really fantastic. But accounting is what people have to have just to maintain their business. The CFO stuff is what takes it to the next level. So our value proposition on CFO is a hell of a lot better. But if I really look into your question about where do I really want to grow next, we've just opened up a footprint in Central Texas. So what we're really working on there is how do we master this deal about opening up a new office and feeding enough business into it to within 12 months, we have 4 CFOs up and really running, which again, we go back to one of our core processes is business development. And if we can master that to where we can open up an office every other year and put 4 to 6 people in there every other year, we're in really great shape.
And then how do y'all plan on doing that?
So first and foremost, I do a lot of public speaking. So I will come into a market to where there's Vistage chairs or other CEO peer groups. I'll do educational forums about better financial management. And then from that, it usually gets some attention that we start feeding into. And then we push our business development engine in there while we're also recruiting local CFOs with the commitment of, if I hire a CFO, they're going to be fully fed within 3 months. And our CFOs make well above the average within a marketplace for a mid-market company. Well above the average.
And so you said speaking. Where are you speaking at? I'm assuming events. This is the Elev8 Event Series Podcast. So what events are you speaking at? And are those local DFW or are those all across the country or what?
They're all across the country. I'm getting ready to, in 2 weeks, fly up to Idaho to go meet with like 15, 20 CEOs. And we're going to talk about what your numbers, we call it, are your numbers ready for the Shark Tank or are you just chumming the water? So that whole thing about being, on the Shark Tank, they'll tell you like, you don't even know what your numbers are trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Or what you really should be doing. So we take that venue and really dive deep. As an entrepreneur, what are these numbers telling you about your company and what action should you be taking?
So are you guys putting those events on or are you plugging into other events?
I get invited to a lot of events.
So you go to events, speak, and that's primarily how you're generating a lot of business.
For the business that's outside the marketplace, yes.
And then inside the marketplace?
Inside the marketplace, I'm so well connected here because, I've been here since Christ was a corporal. I mean,
635.
That's right. That's right. We're going way back, brother.
Way back. Okay. So have you hosted any of your own events in DFW yet?
We used to do a quarterly Entrepreneurial Financial Forum. So in that, we'd rent out a country club, have cocktails and everything else, but we'd have a panelist of bankers. We'd have a panelist of investment bankers or M&A advisors or whatever, and really create an opportunity for these entrepreneurs to come in and learn more about very specific parts of their deal, and then network with other entrepreneurs that were struggling with the same topics.
So you said used to. You haven't recently, or is that something you guys want to bring back? Or
We're going to bring it back. We're going to make it a semi-annual instead of quarterly because during the summer, nobody wants to do anything like that.
yeah.
And then if you get into the holiday season, so we're going to do it every other.
So you bring in all your you're bringing clients in from across the country, or is that just specifically for DFW?
It's mostly in DFW. And then what we ask is the panelists, we usually have 4 panelists, and we ask them, hey, each one of y'all need to bring in, 8 CEOs. So in doing so, the room gets to be filled, and typically we have 80 people in the room in a different mix of CEOs all the time because they're bringing theirs and we're bringing ours.
Interesting. That's cool. Oh, you mentioned a little bit about events in DFW. How are you currently finding events? Are you going to any events in DFW, or you're just so connected? Before 6:35, I know everything.
No, I don't know everything, but I'm very focused on people that are 1 degree of separation from CEOs and are connected to multiple CEOs. So again, I'll do educational forums and speaking events to a lot of these Vistage or peer group chairs because each one of them has between 20 and 60 CEOs that they are 1 degree of separation away. And because I work that group a lot, I then have a reputation about, he's a really good financial speaker. My net promoter score is well over 9. And for a finance guy, that's pretty damn good to be over 9. It helps that they have caffeine, of course, but
Yeah. Well, so is it all industries? Do you have a target industry that you're specifically good at, or is it like it just, do you have one in every industry? Do you have a bunch in one? What's your client base like?
My background is mostly in construction. The company I owned was construction, so I do a ton of construction clients. The one that I talked about previously, it was a construction client. So construction and manufacturing and professional services are my 3 big areas. I probably am associated with every one of our construction clients. But because there's 17 of us, there's very few industries that we don't touch. There's a few exceptions, though. We don't do heavily regulated industries because regulatory compliance is not a very fun gig to have. I want to change companies. I don't want to report to a regulatory body on a company. That's about as exciting as standing on top of a building and throwing yourself off. Number 2, healthcare. That whole insurance reimbursement game, it's a very archaic, arcane process. And you either know it cold or you're clueless. And we don't have anybody on our team that has that kind of background, so we avoid that. And the last thing is oil and gas exploration, because there's this thing called joint interest billing, because you could have dozens upon dozens of owners. And back in the day when I used to do that, the ownership percentages would go out 4, 5, and 6 decimal points, and that's 6 beyond my give a flip factor. Right, so I don't want to get into that kind of reporting deal. I want to change companies, just not do the reporting.
So just recap, under 7 million, you service between 1 and 7 million, and then over 7 million, you're bringing them and taking their profitability to, up to 5x sometimes.
Yeah, so below the 7 is we're deploying technology to serve them efficiently. Above 7, we're in there to drive change.
I learned a lot on this one. It is the Elev8 Event Series Podcast. I do have everybody do this. You have to do this. It's not weird. I need you to close your eyes just for one quick second. And I need you to describe, Burt, your dream event. What does it look like? And just give me just a brief explanation of what you see as far as a dream event that you guys are hosting.
Let me see. A dream event for us, and it just feels weird having my eyes closed.
You don't have to have them closed the whole time, but just a little bit.
Okay, good, because I already had the picture in my head. I'd love to see a room filled with 100 CEOs that are driven for moving their business forward, and maybe they're number 2 in their company. Along that deal is not only for me, I want to see some great market partners, whether those are bankers, whether those are other influencers, other content providers, because these people are starved for really good, meaningful content to move their business forward. And you know as well as everybody, there's content and then there's content.
Yeah.
Right? And so vetting through the people that really add value and messages for these people to digest, take home, or tools, that would be outstanding, because I get all excited, and my big is to help people change what they're doing, not just to be in front of people. But if you start lighting them up about the opportunities to really change for the better, that's a great room.
Yep. Great. I love that one. That's definitely in the toolbox of stuff that we want to put together too. So that's a great dream event. I think bringing top tier people together is such a value nowadays, and these conferences, I talked to a renewable energy company the other day. These conferences are really starting to grow and getting a lot of good value out of them. So definitely something we're aiming to create here at the Elev8 Event Series, and hopefully we can make something happen for you very soon.
All right, man.
All right.
Harrison, again, I appreciate even being invited on here. And boy, someday I hope I can carry the hat.
Well, hey, don't worry. We'll get you one. We'll get you a custom. That's definitely in our wheelhouse for sure. So
Awesome stuff, man.
appreciate it. Thank you, Bert.
You have a great weekend.